Good morning, everyone. Now, addressing the climate crisis is the biggest business opportunity on our generation. And that's not something what I said. These are the words of Werner Hoyer, who until recently used to be the executive director of the European Investment Bank, the largest intergovernmental financial institution in Europe. Now, why do we need to look into the energy? Why do we need to look into the greenhouse gases, all the environmental issues? The answer is simple. It's about our survival as a civilization. Might not sound very tempting, very enthusiastic, but actually it is the sad reality. We are facing climate crisis that's slowly turning out into the climate catastrophe. We are facing increased pressures on our ecosystem. And let's be honest, inside of your bodies are toxic chemicals that you never even considered that they will be there. These are all news that are not very good for us. But at the same time, addressing these changes is a business opportunity. But maybe you don't want to look at it from an environmental perspective. Look at it from a security perspective. The sad news is, especially that we in Europe have been really naive about being dependent on Russian fossil fuels, especially the Russian ones, let's be honest. Since more than 20 years, Putin was saying that he will use the export of fossil fuels as a strategic weapon. He did it several times, and we kept on our dependence. Us in Slovakia, Poland, Germany, all around the place. And this is something where we finally have to wake up to the change and use it again as an opportunity. Because what is better than to be able to stand on your own? What is better than to be able to not depend on others? It doesn't stop you from collaboration. This is something we in Central Europe have learned over the ages, where we've been pushed from one side or the other side. And I believe at this moment is that we can lead the way in the transition. We can be those who are coming up with the new innovations. We can be those who are showcasing the opportunities, who are bringing them to life. There are already companies that are coming up with solutions in this sector. And I think this is a time when we need to really start looking at how to scale it up. Sadly, the security has proven to be a challenge. Everybody talks about the need to ramp up the defense industry. It's not something that I believe anyone is pleased to hear, but at the same time, it's something that sadly we have to do. But what point there would be in improving our defense capabilities, where at the same time we would be paying billions and billions of euros or dollars, your choice, to those which want to attack us? That's where I'm again talking about our dependence on fossil fuels from Russia. This is something which is so crucial for our security that it's really hard to understate it. And the solution to that, the transition to energy efficiency, renewable energy, all the clean energies, it's something that actually helps the economy. It's something that supports our competitiveness and something that will help us to actually move forward and be the industrial leaders again. Because yes, as a Europe, we are losing this position. Now, I believe that Central Europe is a unique region. Unique in its history over the last 100 years, because sadly, especially after the Second World War, we have been left behind the Iron Curtain. And the revolutions that swept and that basically brought us back to the democratic world gave a really huge boost to the region. And now it is time for us to not be catching up anymore, but to showcase where we can lead, to showcase the ingenuity of this region. That's why I'm happy that the initiatives around cleantech in Central and Eastern Europe are starting to grow, that there are many companies that are creating a lots of added value. What we need to make sure now is that they also stay. Because sadly, often what we see, the governments are not creating the best conditions, putting many obstacles into the development of these companies. And I think this is something which we need to address not only on national level, but also on the European level. This is where we need to look for the ways to improve the legislative environment, to improve the legal environment. One of the great initiatives in this space is the plan to create so-called 28 jurisdiction. Because one of the challenges of the startups and scale-ups is that they're looking for a legal environment which attracts investment, which provides them with legal certainty, but which is also well known enough that the investors will not have to study the legal particularities of each of the member states, but will have a place to go. And I think this is a really important initiative to make sure that we will not be losing the scale-up companies that we are sadly now from the European space. But let me go over to some of what I believe are the great opportunities in terms of the different types of industries in the cleantech. The core space is, the core space is, of course, the energy. And besides looking at the improvements in geothermal, looking for the improvements in the electricity production, storage, the smart management of the grid, hydrogen and all the others, there is a vast space of untapped potential. And that's the industry that relies on, so to say, less predictable temporary electricity that it's going to come at zero marginal cost. Because with the shift to large-scale renewables, you will have only so much storage that's really needed, but there is going to be always a bit of a surplus of electricity. And I think this is something which is a great opening for new innovations that can bring added value to our economy. And you say, what he's talking about, this is something completely mad. But if you look back, 25 years ago, no one would know what is an app developer. The whole ecosystem did not exist. And just because smartphones came about, a disruption occurred which really fundamentally changed the way that lots of businesses are run, from the banking down to, I don't know, communications in many ways. And I think this is the similar change and disruption that we will be seeing very soon in field of energy. And if we were able to be those which harness it, then we'll be able to profit from it. Another crucial one is the circular economy. We face a situation where we depend on lots of the imports of not just fossil fuels, but also different raw materials from around the world. And at the same time, we produce waste which contains this very same material. And the question is, will we be able to use them better in Europe? How, or anywhere in the world, how can we make sure that rather than extracting, we can reuse and not just recycle, but really harness those materials that are contained now in a waste? Not by burning them or dumping them on the landfills, but getting them back into the circle. And this is something which also strengthens security. This is something which also creates economic opportunities. Our job in terms of the European legislation is to create the right legislative framework for that, because at the moment, again, we have obstacles. Turning waste into product is legally hard. The so-called end-of-waste is still a massive problem. So there are opportunities, there are challenges, but I believe that what will ultimately win is the human ingenuity. Because somehow we managed to overcome in the history the biggest challenges that we had. And I think now is the time when we'll have to overcome many of them at the same time, but I believe that we can do it. Thank you.